Do have two members of the Michigan Supreme Court, Justices Joan Larsen and David Viviano, on the other end of our AT&T line right now. Justice Larsen, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And Justice Viviano, it's nice to talk to you again. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Thank you for having us again.
Appreciate that very much. By the way, I noticed, Justice Larsen, that you clerked for the late Supreme Court Justice Anton Scalia.
Yes, I sure did. It was a great privilege and honor to be selected to be one of his law clerks.
And did you get to be around him much then?
Oh, absolutely. The justice was in chambers every day, and so were we, so we worked quite closely.
Yeah, I wonder because sometimes, in those situations, you wonder if you have access to that person, but it sounds like you did. What was he like in your estimation, professionally and personally?
Personally, he was warm and gregarious. He was the kind of person who could talk to anybody and make them feel right at ease. He had a big personality, and he really loved to laugh. So he was personally a very warm person. Professionally, he was extremely serious about his work, dedicated to the work of the court, and really committed to getting things right. So we worked extremely hard, but that's just as it should be on the nation's highest court.
I had the chance to attend the State of the Union address a couple of years ago, thanks to Congressman Huizenga, and I was fascinated to watch the members of the Supreme Court sit there. And to me, I would be so intimidated, that they don't even seem human. They're like appointed for life, above it all, supposedly impervious to all politics. And I find it fascinating. And then when you tell me that he was friendly and warm and very Italian, it sounds like, in that fashion, that's nice to know.
Yeah, the thing you realize, although I started out being very intimidated by all of the justices, but you quickly realize that they're just people and just trying to do a good job, like the rest of us.
So I guess I would ask both of you, and we'll begin with Justice Viviano, if you don't mind. At what point do you think that a lame duck president should no longer be responsible for choosing the replacement for a U.S. Supreme Court justice?
Well, I don't know that I would phrase it the way you did, that the president's not responsible for that. I think the president has every right to make an appointment, and then the Senate has to do their role in this. Our founders thought about different ways to have judges either appointed or elected. They came up with an appointed judiciary. You've already mentioned, Michael Patrick, that on the federal level, judges are appointed with life tenure. But the compromise there was that the Senate would have a very important role in approving those nominees. And so the president has every right and, frankly, the responsibility to make the appointment. And now the ball is in the Senate's court. They have to decide whether to move forward with this nominee or to take some other action. It's sort of interesting because at the state level, it's a little bit different, as we know. Justice Larsen and I are up for election this year. When you're appointed in our system, you have to the check and balances. You have to face the voters in the very next election, and so of course that's the process that we're going through.
And wouldn't the average person say, well, the decisions of an elected Supreme Court justice could affect re-election, and therefore they might be open to, politicking?
Well, and it's interesting. We just were in front of a group yesterday discussing this very issue. And that's, in Michigan's history, at the beginning, I believe we did have an appointed judiciary with life tenure, but that changed over 150 years ago or so, and when we became, there was sort of a wave across the country to Jacksonian democracy, direct election of a lot of folks, including judges. But obviously we have to be very careful not to let those considerations impact our decision-making. We have to be willing to make sometimes very unpopular decisions. We don't take a poll and see what folks would like to see in a given case. We have to follow the law, and it's a very important obligation that we have.
Too bad the legislature doesn't work that way, where they have to make the decision that's best for the people, despite the politics involved. I won't ask you to comment on that, though, but I am curious to know, you work to sort of review the jury system in Michigan. Is that offensive to you when you hear that old adage, well, just remember, the members of the jury are people who weren't smart enough to get out of jury duty?
Yeah, that's actually, I think, a quote from H.L. Mencken. I used to use it when I would do orientation for jurors in my trial court days. It's important to always remind people and that serving on a jury, I think, is one of the two very most important things we can do to remain free as a people in our democratic and constitutional system of government. The other one is not compelled. That's voting on Election Day. But it's really important to have a representative cross-section of the community come in and make some of the most important decisions in our court system, and so that folks can have their cases decided not by an important government official, but by a jury of their peers.
Thank you very much for both being available. As the justices mentioned, they are running for re-election. Joan Larsen, Michigan Supreme Court. David Viviano, Michigan Supreme Court. And with luck, I'll be able to speak with them again soon. It's nice of them to share their expertise on the airwaves here across the state of Michigan.